Welcome back, dear friends. Apologies for yet another gap, because of the last video I made, I said I'd got my Mojo back, I was getting on with stuff, and I wouldn't be a stranger. And I was just starting to work on the chronological engine for the customer, building another one, and I started doing it. I thought, I've made so many videos of this, it's not really worth making another one. But then I thought, I've disappeared again. So let me show you what I've been up to. So the idea of the chronological engine is, I thought we need a clock, because, you know, we've got the weather forecasting machine there, we've got the date and time, or date rather, there. We need a clock. I think it was the last one I made. And I thought, wouldn't it be nice to have a clock that doesn't go all the way around, because all clocks go all the way around, so it doesn't go all the way around. And then it's sort of one thing led to another, and more functions and things and controls and copper pipe. So that's what I'm making. Oh, and you can see it every time the minute hand goes around a little bit. You can see the flickering LEDs on the interface for the stepper motor for that. So let's have a look and see what makes it tick or not. Here we are. Here's one I prepared earlier. So this is a 3mm acrylic cutout, onto which I've mounted a Mega. I used a Mega simply because it needs a lot of ins and outs, well, outputs mainly, because you've got two stepper motors, so that's 8 outputs for a start. And the Arduino just hasn't got enough, the Arduino Uno rather. Now here we are, here's the, get rid of that wretched reflection. Two stepper motors, the lovely little ones. This is the minute one, and this has a magnet, and it has a reed switch there. So every time it goes round, it knows where it is, and can keep itself calibrated, so that's nice. Here's the hour switch, or the hour stepper motor, and that has a little micro switch there. So what I decided, just in case it sort of got out of sync slightly, going backwards and forwards every 12 hours, is that when it goes back to 0, this comes back, touches the micro switch, and then it moves back to 0. So it recalibrates itself every 12 hours. So we've got the two interfaces, one there and one there, facing forwards, so it shines through that little window. There's the important bit, the very important bit, the real-time clock with its battery. Now sadly, I'm not allowed to send lithium-ion batteries through the post, so I'll have to take that out. It would still work, but it just wouldn't remember the time, and then if you switch the power off, but the customer can always put one in. I have some instructions to that effect. How lovely. So that's coming on. I have a beautifully shiny, oh look at the shine on that, baseboard with the hole cut out, I think I showed you last time, and the keyhole fittings on the back. And I've got all these other bits made up. I've got the encoder in here with a converted valve that I drilled out and put the encoder in instead of the gate valve part. That's most enjoyable. So that goes round and round now, and the Arduino can actually read how many times you have turned it and in which direction. Ooh, engravings for the clock face, beautiful. There's the bell housing, bell ringing motor housing, whatever you want to call it. And the PIR sensor, beautifully mounted, even though I say so, Miss Sen will fit on the top of that. And there's the clock surround with the pipe entries and things. So it's all, oh, and lastly, but not leastly, the part of the clock, the IKEA clock that I drilled out and then mounts everything onto. So, oh, and then I keep finding. Anyway, here's the lovely little clock face illuminator, with 6 of those lovely little warm white LEDs mounted on it, that goes under that bit with the 2 lenses for AM and PM. And the other thing, and this is being made for someone called Saskia, his wife, so we thought it'd be nice to have that. And because I make them all from scratch, I can change what appears on the engravings. Oh, and there's also that bit, which is the lever, the switch control lever, function control thing. This is version 3. This is version 2. And I wasn't thinking and didn't read my instructions, so I glued it together and then realised I couldn't paint it. The first one I glued together and put too much glue on and it all squidged over this window. I have therefore added some more notes to my copious notes. Remember to do this. especially as I've got a nice little jig that helps you to line it all up. I do love lots of notes. It's most exciting, and pictures and how-to things. And I also spent a most enjoyable couple of evenings taking to pieces that huge Lego crane. Just as enjoyable as putting it together, I find. Perhaps I need to get out more. Once you've categorised all the different styled bits and pieces and put them in little plastic boxes, then a freezer bag is perfect to keep them all separate, to package them all up again. And I managed to fit everything back in the box almost. So that's exciting. So anyway, stop wittering. Today's job is to start actually assembling the clock. Now I seem to remember I had the intelligence to write some setup functions which basically, before all this is wired into other bits and pieces, would just simply set this round to until it's over the read switch, set that till that clicks there. Because then I was so pleased because originally the hands were fixed on and I was going to use software to line things up. Absolute nightmare. But now I've got teensy little nuts and a threaded bolt there for the minute hand and a countersunk screw for the hour hand, which is an absolute joy because once I've set this up by plugging in the sketch, the setup sketch, yeah, that's it. I now know that that is pointing at 12 and that is pointing at 0 or whatever, and I can fix the hands in place. That probably doesn't make much sense, and I've got verbal diarrhea again. Never mind. So my first job is to assemble all of these pieces in here and screw that on the back and fix on and solder on. This is something I need to work out. I'm still not happy with that, but these 6 resistors, I thought they might get too hot if they were fixed within the front, sort of underneath the glass in the front of the clock. So I extended them backwards, which is really stupid because it means if I have to take things to pieces, and you'll know if you've watched past videos, the bane of my life with this thing is that I religiously, fervently hoover and dust and sweep and clear every speck of dust, get it all assembled, glass on, everything else screwed down, and then you find a little black speck somewhere really obvious that you can't pretend doesn't exist. So then you have to take the whole thing to pieces again. I am going to hope and pray possibly that I don't have that problem this time. I even realised when I was spraying this up that the little recess where the glass goes, if it's painted, when you put the glass in it can scrape some of the paint off. So when I paint it, I have a little paint guard or mask that goes in there to leave that little rebate free. So that's one less source of cack. But no matter how hard I try, it still reappears. It just appears from nowhere. Actually, before I do that, I've just remembered something. Here's my overall plan of the whole thing, which is nice because I can see everything, and obviously I can then copy bits that I need to cut out. So that's all the 3mm stuff, and there's 10mm and all that. So that's good. It's a very useful record. Now, if I click on that, I'd forgotten about this. These are, I don't know how I managed to do this. It's ridiculous. This is the little window that you saw the lights, the LEDs flickering through in the clock face. And I've used every conceivable type of material to make one of these. I think what I'm going to do, because it takes ages to cut them out, I'm going to start cutting those out. I'm going to make 2 of them. Call me devil may care. But if I make another one sometime, it'll save me an awful lot of trouble. Look at that pretty sparklies. And it's cutting out tracing paper at 60mm a second. Beautiful. I haven't videoed the others because it gets a little bit tedious when you have to keep speeding it up. But look, I have 6 of everything, all the little bits and pieces. I'm just cutting out the stainless steel gauze to make the little mesh windows, because it just gives it a certain je ne sais quoi, as we say in the trade. In addition, I've just realised that I've run out of these little decorative gauges. Having sold the last few last night, I hadn't realised I'd run out of the actual surrounds that I make out of 2mm acrylic and then paint up. So I'm going to cut a load more. Luckily I found I'd got some sheets planning ahead. Oh yeah. Of 2mm black acrylic. Let me show you. Now in the past I have cut them out. The black one is the outside, this is the back part, The red line is an engraving to stop any glue, hopefully, from squeezing out past if I put too much on when I stick the front on. And then the green, I used to cut all these out, glue them all together, and have to sit a little disc of cardboard in the middle so that when I spray them brass, it leaves a clear bit to make sure that the glue adheres to stick the lens in with the graphics. But this time, I've cut them out first, just from the film, the protective film, which is ever so exciting. Because look, I'm peeling it off. You can't see it because it's too reflective. But I've got a whole sheet of it, and I'm going to try and do it single-handedly. But look, it's whizzed through the laser cutter, just cutting that. And as long as I can now put it back on the laser cutter in exactly the right place, if I can't, it's going to go horribly wrong. But that's going to leave me a little disc that I can then to protect it from the spray paint. Then I can peel each one off later with the e-scalpel. How exciting! It's filthy, I tell you. Right, let's press start. Where's it going to go? Well, that doesn't look too bad. It looks like it's going to do all the engravings first. They look pretty well centred. Excellent. Here's another top tip for you. When you think that you've cut out perfectly a whole load, 60 of these gauge backgrounds, and then the next morning you find that actually the laser was cut just a little bit too weakly and has left rough edges around the vast majority, the perfect ones, lovely and laser cut smooth, and loads of ones that are horrible, really rough. It's cut some of it and then it's got rough bits sticking out. Obviously the one I'm holding up, I'm not going to be able to find any rough bits. There we are, rough bits. So I'm going to have to sand all of these ones. And the top tip is, dear friends, stick a bit of blue tack onto the front, and then you can twist them round whilst sanding. I thank you so much. What a great start to the day. I'm about to cut out the smaller versions of the gauges, and I have changed the cut. 11 by 40, 11 millimetres a second by 40% power. I remembered after I'd cut them out I had exactly the same problem last time. What a fool I've been. This time I have changed them and I have saved them as proper files. Right, I've finished sanding those ones, the edges. It took about 3/4 of an hour. Guess what I've realised I've just done as well? I forgot to switch off these two and just cut off the film. So what I've ended up with are loads of these with film on the back and film all around the front, which I'm going to have to individually pick off. What a joy! Is it going to get me down? No, dear friends. I'm going to look forward to doing this and not getting on with that clock. Now, I do like peeling off those protective films that you get on electronic equipment. Most enjoyable. But I have to say, I think I've had my fill now. Another 3/4 of an hour later, and I've peeled off all the salient parts and left just the middle bits. What a pain. Never mind, mustn't grumble. It's lunchtime already. Then I can get on with the clock, hopefully. So I've got all the bits finished for the 6 windows for future reference. Oh, just like the drawing, I've got all these bits and I've got to work out how on earth they all fit together. There's the rivets. They're fabric rivets for things like putting huge holes around the tops of jeans and things to thread belts or something through, I don't know. But they're perfect for this sort of job. I figured it out. Lovely. And I've lined it all up, slid it around a bit and then put some super glue dobs of it just to hold that in place, which makes it a joy to line up. And if I hold it up to the light, you can see the sort of effect that it gives. So that's good. Now, next job is to actually start screwing, well, to screw this back bit on. Ooh, the bleep has gone to tell me, let's see, 3rd time lucky. Have I done this right or wrong? Can I actually lift? Oh, look. It's coming away and nothing's sticking to it much. Oh, that's brilliant. Great news at last. I'm going to spend a lovely evening sitting a little jig, gluing all the fronts to all the backs. Exciting. I've got to be 5 volts there. to run everything, because if I plug it straight into my laptop via the USB, the power supply on the Arduino will try and send 5 volts and run everything from that, because it's all got a common ground. So always make sure you connect a 5 volt supply to it first, then the other one. I've also found the sketch for the Chronological Engine, and it has, I was right. I have written a load of little functions to check that everything works. First one, does the minute stepper go in the right direction? Does the hand rotate? Because for some reason, I have no idea why, some of these little stepper motors seem to be wired in the opposite direction for no apparent reason at all. So sometimes they'll go backwards. Let's switch the power on. Now this is a new Mega, so there's nothing programmed. So switch it on, 5 volts. Ah, well that is actually a very good sign, because bless them at Arduino, when you get one, a new one, it's programmed with a little sketch to blink an LED on the board there. And I've connected the AM or PM indicator up to that, so it's just blinking it on and off. Doesn't that look lovely? Flickering LEDs and with a lens over the front. It's probably too bright really for you to see, but it's nice. So now it's time to plug this in and to upload the sketch. There we are, it is compiling. I've clicked on the compile and upload button, so it's going through all the resources, finding all the resources it needs. Very, very clever. And then compiling it into something that it will shortly upload to the Arduino. And then hopefully the light will stop flashing and the minute hand might start rotating. Aha, an error occurred. Let me get back to you. Thought it was going too well. I'd forgotten to set the port to the right one. It reads it and you have to click on which one you want, and that's obviously COM17. Right, let's try that again. Now it's already compiled it, so it should be far quicker this time to just quickly read what it's done already and then upload it. There we are. Now it is uploading. Oh look, it's flashing quickly to indicate it's uploading. And now it's gone out. Oh, I see something moving. Ooh. Look. That's lovely, and because the little LEDs are flickering on the interface, you can see the little image through the window, and that is indeed going clockwise. And if I read my notes, and I'm sorry about the wobbly camera, should repeatedly rotate minute hand clockwise to check it's centered. And I'm very pleased to say that is centered. Beautiful. Now there are the 4 LEDs on the interface board that's facing the other way up, shining straight at the back of the window. Obviously you can't see them flickering at the moment because they're just working flat out. And when it's properly loaded, because it's got logarithmic speeding up and slowing down, it does look very attractive. Oh, how lovely. Right, on to the next test. Excellent. So the next test is to check that the reed switch and the magnet work on the minute stepper. So basically it should rotate minute hand anti-clockwise if it's already near the top. So if the reed switch is already on because the magnet's somewhere close, you couldn't get it to set it accurately, so you have to move it off away and then back again to hope. Well, it'll point somewhere and then I'll move the hand round. So it's moved it off because I did actually set it before, I do apologise. Now it should move it back. Look at that. It's so simple to do it this way. Like I mentioned before, when I started this design, I was using maths to calculate angles so it would actually get to 0. Why make it so? Well, I've got a shrewd idea why. It's so much simpler. Find out where it thinks 12 is and then move the hand. And then the next function does the same thing with the hour hand. If I click reset on the... Well, I'll quickly turn it over. I'm going to miss it. It moves it off. And I've just... There we are. Again, I've just tightened up. It's lovely. Access to the tightening screw in the middle, and you glue a gem on once it's all set up. Just set that up, so that's great. So the hands are working now perfectly. That's amazing. All the tests work. Everything works. I'm so pleased. I have such little faith in my ability that I didn't even solder the illuminating LED resistors on, because I thought I'm going to have to take this apart again. So I'm going to do that now. One top tip, however, that I found to my cost on one occasion was if I leave this connected to the 5-volt power supply. Even though this is open circuit and switched off, and even the whole thing is switched off, if I then earth part of it with the application of a soldering iron, it can cause a little spark and blow one of the outputs. Thankfully, in my experience, it just damaged one output, so I could use another one. But that's the top tip, hence the fact I have completely isolated this. And there are the 6 beautiful little resistors that I'm going to solder onto that horizontal piece of wire. It's getting to the stage where I can actually fix this into the enclosure now. I'm happy that everything's working. I've just soldered on those resistors. Let's switch it on and see what happens. Hopefully they'll fade up. Logarithm, oh look. Logarithmically, it's lovely, isn't it? I'm so pleased with that. It took so long to work out that that's the way to illuminate the whole dial and also the mini face. I reckon that's got to be about 20 minutes. Thanks very much for watching. It's been very similar to the last video, because last video I was sort of upset and I was flitting around and realised I couldn't concentrate or finish anything. This time I'm flitting around, but it's because I've got so much to do, which is an absolute joy, it tells you. Thanks very much for watching. Hopefully the gap between videos will be highly reduced for the next one. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks again. See you next time.